As I left the house to go to school that morning, I went through the back of the house, and as I got near the garage, I heard something fall on the tin roof of the garage, and simultaneously something hit me on my head and on my shoulders, and I looked down, there were fish.
I was in bed, not feeling good, and I didn't get up early, but my maid came and early, and she was out in the yard. I was still in bed. And she ran in, excited like everything, and she's a black maid, but that day she was white of excitement. And she came and she told me, she said, Miss Lola, she said, it's raining fishes. It's raining fishes.
When we heard all this noise, you know, when the fish fell on the roof, this tin roof, my maid, whose name was Viola, ran outside with me, and she was so upset, and she kept saying, Lord, Lord. She said, I think it must be the end of the world.
I was coming up this road, I was coming north, I was just about a block away, when all of a sudden a fish fell right to my right hand, the left-hand side of the car. I saw the fish fall out of the sky. I kept driving, I was very amazed, and when I got here, at this location here, the yard was just absolutely covered with fish. And I was amazed, I stopped, and just about that time, other people started getting here, and everybody was just amazed at the whole thing and just couldn't believe it, the fish had just dropped out of the sky.
I told Daddy that that these fish had fallen on me, and he was a little incredulous, I guess, and didn't believe me. And I said, well, let's go outside and I'll show them to you. So we went on back outside, and I showed Daddy, and of course I wanted my father to explain all things to me, and, as most 14-year-olds would, and he couldn't.
This is fascinating, and one's first guess is that a whirlwind must have taken them up before dropping them in front of the astonished eyewitnesses. I'm sure this accounts for some falls of fish and frogs, but there are problems with the whirlwind theory. Why is it always one kind of fish? Why are there no weeds or other objects? Why are deep water fish sometimes involved? Moreover, what comes down must have gone up. Why are there no reports of the lift-off? Similar questions are raised by another surprisingly common phenomenon. Blocks of ice, often very large blocks, falling from a clear sky.
It was on this quiet council estate at Lyndhurst in Hampshire that one such potentially lethal block descended on a hot summer's day in 1980. Motor mechanic Ed Fox was called home from work to find huge lumps of ice in his bedroom. Just a few feet away, when the ice fell, was next-door neighbour Mrs. Megan Murray.
First of all, I heard a whooshing sound, rather like you hear when a rocket goes off. And then almost on top of that, there was a loud explosion, as if something had blown up. It's one of these unexplained happenings, I should think. I really don't know where it came from. As I was saying, a hot summer's day, more or less, you wouldn't expect to suddenly find large lumps of ice coming out of the sky.
In America, beyond the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, another ice bomb has for some years been an unsolved case on the files of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department. The scene of the incident is the home of Wilbert W. Cullors and his family at Timberville in the Shenandoah Valley.
Me and my son and his wife, it is now, his girlfriend at that time, were sitting here watching television, the $6 million man to be exact. And the $6 million man had just got up on the roof of a big building and reached over and grabbed a vent or a smokestack or something and give it a yank. And just as he yanked, it sounded like the ceiling all fell in on my house.
We looked up the ceiling and we saw insulation and ice falling down on the floor, which flew all over us.
Well, if it would have been maybe 4 to 5 feet more this direction, I think it probably killed us all.
We learned later that there were several pieces of ice found One piece fell out in the road out in front of the house. Another piece landed back over the hill in a man's field. But we had no idea where it came from, but it was sure in a hurry to get here.
The only surviving fragment of the ice is now in the custody of Sergeant Butch Hottinger. He's making one final attempt to crack the case.
At this time, I'm taking that ice to a research laboratory to try and find out probably for this last time, where this ice might have came from.
Aircraft, however, have been ruled out as the culprit. "2,000 miles and 3 planes later, Sergeant Hottinger's destination is the National Center for Atmospheric Research, perched high in the Rocky Mountains, and the Sub-Zero Laboratory of Dr. Charles Knight.
Come in.
Hello.
Hello.
Dr. Knight?
Yes.
Sergeant Hottinger.
How do you do?
Rockingham County Sheriff's Department.
Oh, pleased to meet you.
With me a specimen from the Timberville ice fall.
Yes. Yes. Well, let's see what it looks like.
Have you analyze it there and see if you can help me on it.
How big was the piece that did fall?
The piece that did fall, I'd say it probably was, you know what the size of a basketball is? It's about the size of a basketball.
I see. That's too big for a hailstone anyway.
Pretty good size.
I see. And this angled part is part of the fractured surface, I suppose.
Yes, sir, it is.
Well, the first step is to cut the ice with a saw so as to expose the internal structure. What we do then is to take a slightly warmed piece of glass so as to melt a thin layer of the ice and then put it down on the cold aluminum plate here until that layer of water freezes. The next step will be to saw parallel to the glass slide so as to make a thin uniform slice so you can see the internal structure. You can see, first off, that the crystals are very small. They're about a millimeter. Average, I'd say about a millimeter in diameter. And then that there's a trace of some layering in there. There's one rather distinct layer of larger crystals. By way of comparison,